I'm Prof Ferrari. I'm a professor of neurology, and my special expertise is in treating and studying migraine patients, other types of headaches, and as part of that also what I tend to call diseases which present as episodic with episodic symptoms, such as episodic brain disorders, which includes also epilepsy, narcolepsy, and since recently also visual snow. I think it's fair to say that we don't have a clue what the causes of visual snow. Many people, including myself, have hypotheses, but the main thing we need to do is that we first need to establish to whether and to what extent this is a brain disorder, so that we have an objective diagnostic measure of what of the disease, and that would also help to differentiate it from, for instance, psychiatric disorders, because I think it's fair to say that many people believe that visual snow is some kind of psychiatric condition, and it would be extremely helpful if we could show that there are objective changes in the brain linked to this disorder. So that would be my first step, establishing an objective diagnostic parameter. I think the first thing we really need to do is to investigate a well-defined and well-characterized cohort of patients with visual snow, and then do in these types of patients different kinds of studies, including tests for objective changes in the brain. We are indeed currently setting up a research program where we will try to assess brain function with many different ways, and using the 7 Tesla MRI scan is one of the options we will be doing, but we will also using other devices and other platforms. We already have a European collaboration into migraine, and this could nicely fit in that program, although at this point in time we don't know whether there is any relationship with migraine. We don't know. I mean, there are some arguments in favor and some arguments against, and I think that's one of the things we need to study. As soon as we think we have a potential treatment for at least a proportion of patients, that observation is being described and analyzed and published so that other people can test it, because that's the way it usually goes. There is a condition, a new condition, we don't know what the cause is, we don't know how to treat it, then some people start treating it with a variety of treatments. If there are a few treatments which are potentially effective in a subgroup of patients, then people start publishing that as case reports, and then building on from that, ultimately there will be hopefully a controlled clinical trial. But that's a long shot. It's unfortunately, and I absolutely understand for you, for patients and for family, it's a long time, but remember, if we go back to migraine, that was a process of perhaps 100 years. Now, of course, we are much further, and I'm convinced that we can do it quicker here, but it will not be in a few years. It will take time. I think it's very important to have a movie like this, because it will create a forum for people with similar complaints, and as I mentioned, there are several aspects of doing a good clinical research, and one of them is that you get a sufficient group of well-defined, well-characterized patients who are willing to participate in a study. And again, I cannot repeat it enough, is the first step is that we find objective abnormalities to convince everybody else in the world that this is a true condition. I cannot give medical advice for a group of people because that's really... It first of all depends where they live. Secondly, they need to identify a physician who is willing and interested in seeing patients with this condition. Thirdly, it would be very good if there would be one central database where everybody is collected, so that if there is a trial, either from myself or from other colleagues, and they need a particular type of patients in a certain region to do a certain type of research, that we then call upon and ask, are you willing to participate? Because that's extremely important.